my attempt will be to try and not bore everybody. As long as somebody is interested, it will suffice for me. Let me start by an experience that I had many years ago when I met the well-known author and activist Aravindan Neelakantan. Probably some of you have heard of him. He lives in Nagarkoil and he does a lot of work both on the ground, and also he's a very good writer. So we met at some writing conference, and at the sidelines we were having tea or something. Then he was we were basically complaining about some aspects of the missionary work done by Christians in rural Tamil Nadu, especially in the coastal regions. There's a lot of active missionary work, and at that time he told me, he said it's very easy for us to criticize the missionaries, but just see the work that they are doing. There are at least 100 people from the underprivileged community in Tamil Nadu, what we call as Dalit or backward caste, who can stand on the stage and, in impeccable Tamil or in English, they can speak about Christianity. They are so well trained. How many people can talk about Hinduism even from the so-called forward communities? So this is the very important question that we have to ask ourselves, because it's very easy to criticize somebody else without looking at our own weaknesses. So like Prasanna Gadapati ji was saying, it's very important for us to be able to have a clear idea of what we stand for and why Sanātana Dharma is different. So in the next 40-45 minutes, what I'll try to do is I'll try to give you some of the core philosophical principles as we have laid out in this book, and also, if time permits, give you a little bit of idea about the primary sources of our tradition. The most important thing that stands out when we look at Sanātana Dharma and the other religions in the world is that, first of all, Sanātana Dharma is not a religion in the Western sense. It is more of a way of life and a system of faith. But the thing that stands out for any student of religion and faith is that it is perfectly aligned to nature. So all the principles of Sanātana Dharma are drawn from nature. As you know, we have the natural world, and from that, a refinement of the natural world should ideally lead to culture. So only from nature, when we go a step further, we get culture. But without nature, there is no possibility of culture, and exploiting nature is the worst form of existence. It is absolutely opposed to culture. Culture has to build on nature, right? So the beauty of Sanātana Dharma is that it is very well aligned to nature. Another thing is there are different names, like you were mentioning. Say, some people call it Hinduism, some people call it Sanātana Dharma, some people say you should not call it Hinduism at all, you should call it only Sanātana Dharma, some people say it doesn't matter. What we have to realize is, at the time when we go back to the origins of Hinduism, first of all, it does not have a single founder. There's no one person who said, okay, I have these ideas and I'm going to teach people and everybody will follow it. So it does not have one founder. It was not created at one point of time. Every other religious thing, we know when it was created, who was the creator. Then it does not have one book that you read this book of whatever number of pages and everything is covered. It grew organically as the collective consciousness of the really brilliant minds of the past. And if we see the collection of these great minds, that is the Vedas, and these great minds, there are both men and women. In no other religious system, to my knowledge, the foundational works of that religion has any contribution by women. It's all written by men, for men, by men, of men. So it's only in Sanātana Dharma, even the earliest utterances of the Rigveda Samhita, which is the oldest book we know in any part of the world, that there are rishis and rishikas, men and women, who have who have realized the highest wisdom. So it is not like that the Vedas were composed by somebody. The traditional view is that it was revealed to them, or they realized it like a moment of epiphany. Like Newton realized the thing when the apple fell on his head, or Archimedes realized in the bathtub. So it's like a realization. So it is already there, but they have realized it. But they are responsible for it. So we give them due credit for being the mantra drashtaras. So this earliest collective consciousness of these great thinkers, men and women, became Vedas. Now, at that point of time, there is no other way of life. There is no second. So there is no need to give a name. A Kanchi Paramacharya, in a beautiful article, he says there is a reason why the religion of the Hindus does not have a name, because at that point of time there is no other. If there are only one in a room, you don't need any name. You need a name because there are other people. So when there is a second, you have to give some name, right? So therefore, we don't have a name for the sake of convenience. Today there are so many different religions and beliefs. New religions are being created. So for the sake of convenience, we say Sanātana Dharma or Hinduism or whatever. So all the names, whether Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma, all these are new names, because earlier we didn't have a name. For the sake of convenience, we use these names. Now, Hinduism, the word Hindu is basically a corruption of the word Sindhu, as you may know. People who are living across the Sindhu river were called Sindhus. In the Avestan language, it became Hindu. So Hindu is more a geographical uh, identity rather than a cultural or religious identity. In fact, even today in Spanish or in this thing, they say Hindu for Indians. So it doesn't have anything to do with the religion. It's a geographical thing. But it has become popular. So if somebody want to use Hinduism, it's fine. If they want to use Sanatana Dharma, whatever the term you use, as long as we know what we're talking about, it is okay. We will first start with the most important idea of Sanatana Dharma. All the things, whatever I'm going to talk about, can be experienced in practice, can be verified in your daily life. Because if it does not stand to scrutiny, then it becomes a belief. And the moment there is belief, there is nothing wrong with belief. It is an integral part of our life. But the moment there is belief, then there is no further discussion possible. Because if somebody comes to me and says, "Oh, last night I saw a dream, and in the dream, some Argentinian football player came in my dream and he told me, you are going to be the next Lionel Messi." Can I contest that? Can I say, is there any way that I can, rebut or I can do anything? I have to just accept it. If he's somebody, it's a trustworthy person, maybe he had that dream. If he's not a trustworthy person, then maybe I won't believe him. But there is no further discussion possible. Whereas if somebody comes up with some scientific theory or some idea or some new pedagogy or something, we can debate it, we can discuss it, we can prove it, we can disprove it. There can be some we can build up on this on the foundation. Whereas when it comes to belief, then it is purely personal, and then if Sanatana Dharma was only about belief, it will be no different from the other religions, because other religions, especially the Western religions, are entirely based on belief. It is There are, of course, aspects of culture, aspects of ethics, law, morality. All these things are there in Christianity, Islam, Judaism. All these are there, but the core idea is the belief. I remember when some maybe 10 years back, I had gone to Abbey in I think it was in Netherlands. So there we had some kind of inter-religious discussion, and we were hosted by this frere who is the head of the abbey. So then I was asking this frere, I said, you talk about Christian values. Many times this word Christian values come. So let us say there is a person who is very honest, very kind, and very compassionate, very helpful to other people, but has no belief in your God. What happens then? Is he a good Christian? So that head of the abbey was very honest. He said, "No, sir. How can it be possible? Unless he has faith in our Lord and Savior, how can he be a good Christian?" So that belief in that system is very important. Without that belief, that religious structure will not be there. I'm not saying it is right or wrong. What I'm trying to say is that it is founded on belief. The same thing with the later religions. Whereas in Sanatana Dharma, and to some extent in Buddhism, in some of the schools of Buddhism, some of the schools of Jainism, it is not based on belief, it is based on universal experience. So it is because that is where there is some amount of discussion that is possible. So, whatever I'm saying, you can verify in your personal experience, or you can observe around you and you can work it out. So, the aspects related to belief, there, of course, Hinduism also has a lot of beliefs. I'm not going to discuss that too much because there is not much scope for any conversation when it comes to belief. In our tradition, we have a very beautiful concept in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and later developed in other works of what is called Avasthatraya. Avasthatraya basically means the three different states of consciousness. Now, this is something again that everybody here would have experienced. One is the wakeful state, which I think all of you are in hopefully right now. Wakeful state. So completely awake. You are learning about the world through the senses. You can feel, you can hear, you can see. This is the wakeful state. Then there is a dream state. That is another state which everybody knows, where inside the dream it feels real. But the moment you snap out of the dream, then you realize that it was a dream. But inside the dream, whether your fear or anger or hatred or love, all these things holds good. Then the third is the state of deep sleep, which is the non-REM sleep as they call it. So you don't know where you are. So you may be sleeping on a royal bed in a 5-star, 7-star hotel like some Leela Palace, or you may be sleeping on the street. Once you go fall asleep, from your point of view, there is no difference. You have no idea about the world around you. Once you go to sleep, only when you wake up, you realize, oh, what a beautiful bed. This is so soft and pillow is so nice and is so air conditioned. Or you're waking up in a hard, like a footpath and you're seeing this sun is hitting your head. So in the wakeful state, you realize all this. But when you are asleep, you have no recollection of that. You have no ego. You have no pain, sorrow, nothing. You may have 101 problems, all the tapatraya you may have, but the moment you go to sleep, you don't have any recollection. You, at that point of time, from your perspective, you are perfectly peaceful. So this is known as the avastatraya. Why is this important? Because every other religion, every other system of faith in the world only explores the wakeful state and completely ignores the other two aspects of life. So it is only in the school of Vedanta and in our tradition where there is a value given to the entire experience of consciousness. So sleep, dream, and wakeful state, all the three are explored. Whereas if you take any other system, including the other schools of philosophy inside Sanātana Dharma, they only consider the wakeful state, which is technically known as the Jagrat Abhinivesha, or the bias towards the wakeful state. Now, why is this dream and deep sleep important? Because when we are inside a dream, we feel that is real, but when we snap out of it and come to the wakeful state, we realize it was a dream. Just in a similar fashion, if we are able to realize, not theoretically know, if we are able to realize that the wakeful state also is Maya, and there is a higher state than this, when you realize that this is also like a dream, that is called Turiya, or that is where we call it Jivan Mukti or Turiya or the enlightened state. Now, how do we know that this is true? It could be a belief because in we are all not in that state. We have only three states of consciousness. There are two reasons or two pointers for giving us this idea of Jivan Mukti. One pointer is the existence of Jivan Muktas like Ramana Maharshi or Ramakrishna Paramahamsa or Nisargadatta Maharaj or these kind of people who are realized people who have lived, 100 years before us, 200 years before us in our time, recent years. Because if we talk about Krishna or some Vedic Rishi, it's removed from us by 5,000, 8,000 years. It's difficult for us to relate. But somebody who lived 50 years back, 100 years back has reached this is a great reassurance for us. That is one. The other is all of us experience this state in short bursts when we are deeply involved with a work of art. When we are watching a movie, when we are reading a novel, when we are seeing a painting intently, when we're listening to beautiful music, there are short bursts, short periods of time where we enter a timeless state. We realize, oh, I didn't see what the time. Suddenly, oh, 2 hours are gone. I never realized. So, for that brief moment, you when you are inside that state, it's a timeless state. You don't know the time. When you come out of the state, you say, oh, it has been so much of time has elapsed that I have realized this. Now, similar thing happens in sleep. Now, if you didn't see the clock, if you are completely in a room without any light, without any natural light, just artificial light, you don't know what time it is. You go to sleep and you wake up. You will not know how long you have slept. It is not possible. We know we have slept for 6 hours, 8 hours because we are wearing some gadget, or we are having some phone, or we are having alarm, or we look at the clock. From the wakeful state, we are telling that, oh, we have slept for 6 hours, 8 hours, 3 hours, whatever. But during the sleep, it's a timeless state, right? So, because of these experiences in our life, we know that there is a possibility that we can extend this period of, complete, emptiness. You people, some of them do it through meditation, some of them by this whatever what we call as rasananda, by enjoying work of art. When we are completely immersed in that, when you're completely immersed in some activities, we can experience that, and if we are able to expand that time period, then there is a possibility of going out of this three states but so we start with this idea of consciousness, and this is something which everybody can understand, everybody knows. Then we go to another important core idea of Sanātana Dharma, which is the four objectives of human life, what is called as Purusharthas. These are the four fundamental goals of life, where it is divided as three and one. There are four in total, three which are called Trivarga, which are kind of having one kind of quality, and then the other one is called Apavarga. This also, I'm sure most of you have heard these terms: Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. uh, I'm assuming that you have heard somewhere you have heard these terms. We'll start with karma, which is very, very common. Everybody knows desire. All of us have desire, some kind of desire, whether it is for wealth or for, name and fame, or it is whatever. There are so many desires that is what is driving the world. Without desire, it will be a standstill. If you don't have any desire, you don't need to go anywhere. You don't need to do anything. You are already fulfilled. You will just be sitting silent if you don't have any desire. So desire is what drives the world. Now, that is called karma. In a simple, karma also is the enjoyment that we get when our desires are fulfilled. That is also called karma. The desire itself also is called karma. Both these things we have in this term karma. Artha is the means to fulfill the desire. So we have certain desires. What are the means? It could be money, it could be network, it could be hard work, whatever. But the means to fulfill. Now I want to have an ice cream. That's my desire. So the means to fulfill it is I must have a few dollars in my pocket. I must have a car or something to drive down to the ice cream parlor, and I must have enough patience to wait in the queue, long queue, to buy the ice cream. So all these things are artha, the means to fulfill the desire. So artha and kama are something which is universal. Everybody, everywhere it is there, right? So we can see it in roughly as a demand and supply. So there is a demand for something, there is a supply. So everybody has desire, and everybody is trying to acquire the means to fulfill that desire. Now, what happens is there is always a limited supply. Demand can be anything. You may have hundreds of desires, but the means to fulfill the desire is limited. So in that case, it is very important that in the quest to fulfill my desire, I should not trample your quest to fulfill your desire. Right? So that is why we have dharma. Now, if you go in the crossroad, I also want to go, you also want to go. How do we adjust? If both of us go at full speed, we will have a head-on crash. So, or somebody has to sacrifice. Oh, okay, you go all the time. You go in the one way. Other person always waiting. Or I sacrifice all the time. Let the other person go. All these things are not sustainable. We need a sustainable solution. What is a sustainable solution? Traffic signal is sustainable solution. That, okay, I'll wait for some time and let that person go. Then that side will wait for some time, I will go. So it is a compromise that we are making. What will be the ideal? Ideal, like politician in some cavalcade, all the time, no for the red signal, always going freely wherever you want. That's ideal condition for you. But it is not sustainable. Similarly, if you always give allow the other person to go, that is also not sustainable for you. So you can take another example for if you want to have a dosa in CTR, which is a very famous place. I have gone and had dosa. Now, if I have to make a dosa from scratch, how much it's going to cost me? It will cost me at least 5,000 rupees because I have to get gas cylinder, I have to get the pan, I have to get the oil, I have to get the dosa batter, I have to have a house, I have to pay rent. So it will be very expensive if I have to make dosa from scratch. There I can get 400 rupees. Correct? But at the same time, if the price of dosa is too high, then I will say it is easier for me to invest this because anyway I'm having every day. So if I invest it one time, I can have it for as long as I want every day. So the price, you see, is decided by a certain kind of dharma. How do you determine the price? There is something which is sustainable on both sides. So if he prices the dosa at 10 rupees, within 1 month he has to close down the shop. It is not sustainable for him. If he prices the dosa at 300 rupees, again 1 month later he has to close down because there will be somebody else who is pricing it at 200 rupees. So the price has to be optimum, what people are willing to pay and what is beneficial for me. It has to be beneficial to both the parties. So this compromise that is made between the kama and artha is called dharma. Now, dharma is a word that is very well known and all of you have heard it many times. It is not so easy to translate into English. First of all, it is wrong to translate it as religion because dharma is not religion. Dharma is sustainability, natural goodness. Dharma also can mean nature. We say the nature of fire, the dharma of fire is to burn. The dharma of water is to douse fire or to flow. So, dharma can also mean nature. Dharma can also mean law or morality or ethic. We say manu dharma or some samanya dharma. So, dharma can also mean law. And dharma is, in its essence, it is something which is sustainable, something which supports the sustainability. So, this compromise between artha and kama is dharma. So these three are one unit. We call it as trivarga. This is important for everybody. So whether you believe in some god or don't believe, whether you are living in India or living in US, whether you are man or woman, retired or employed, doesn't matter. These three apply to all human beings. It is a global phenomena that everybody has desires. People are constantly looking for the means to fulfill the desire, and there is some global compromise or a cosmic global ethic, cosmic compromise, or something which is ensuring that one person's quest to fulfill desire is not coming in the way of the other person's quest to fulfill his or her desire. So, if these three are one, the fourth objective of life, the fourth purushartha, is called moksha. Now, many times moksha, we think, oh, it is some esoteric thing. It's like somebody sitting in a chariot and going to heaven or some. We have read in Mahabharata that Yudhishthira went to Swarga in human form, and then stories of Trishanku trying to create Swarga, all this moksha. But basically, what is moksha, if you think of it from the definition? It simply means you are able to be happy without any external trigger. If somebody can be happy without external stimulus for extended period of time, that is only moksha. It's easy for us to do it in a short burst when we are sitting and contemplating about something, or we are watching some movie, or we are listening to some song. We can be really happy, but there is an external stimulus that is coming. The moment the concert is over, that you are out of that zone, or the moment that match gets over, you're out of that zone. When the match is happening, it's so exciting. One goal, 1-1, 2-1, 2-2. All this you're watching, you're forgetting the whole world. You're completely immersed in the match. But the moment the full time is over and the whistle is blown, then you have come back to reality. Your unpaid bills will be reminded. Your car needs cleaning up. You have to wash the dishes. All the thing will come back. During that 90 minutes, nothing. You are completely forgotten. You are involved so much in that. But when you can be like in that state without any trigger, that's what is great, right? So in one of our mentor, S.R. Ramaswamy sir often used to say, a rich man is one who has enough. So if you feel that you have enough, then you are a rich man. If you feel that you don't have enough, that means you are still going and searching, trying to do more and more. If you feel that yes, I'm good, I'm contented, I have enough, because the whatever is the bank balance, it's only a number. Let us say you have got an app that just adds 3 zeros to your bank balance. Okay, we'll have an app. Just whatever your bank balance, just add 3 zeros. You are very happy. Oh, fantastic. Because it's only a number. Only when you go to draw the money, then the reality is there. But how many of us, invariably, most of us will die with some bank, something in the bank. We are not going to die with zero. Unless you have made a lot of debt and problem. That's a different story. But generally, responsible people from good families, then when you are going to kick the bucket, you're going to have enough and more in the bank. So therefore, it's only a notional thing. So the question is how we look at it, right? So if you are able to be happy without any external trigger, whether there are 3 zeros or no zeros, you are still happy. That is very hard, because happiness from some source, this is human nature, whether it is from eating a nice meal or it's by meeting friends or whatever it is, the source of happiness is, there are many. But to be happy without anything and for a sustained period of time, this is in some sense Jivan Mukti or Moksha, more than anything else. Because once somebody dies, Videha Mukti is a different, it is coming into the realm of belief that I did all the Punya Karyas and then once I die, I will go to Swarga. And then once I finish my quota of all the good deeds, I am reborn again in a good family. Then if I do some Papa Karya, then I will die and go to Naraka. Then once my quota of this thing is over, again I am born as some low animal. Then I do good things, then I advance, then I am born as a human being. Like this is in the realm of belief, which is fine. We will come to that also. Punarjanma and this thing, I'll talk about that. But the Jivan Mukti is something which is you can experience, because everybody have tasted a flavor of this. Like in Baskin Robbins, you go and taste the flavor. We have tasted the flavor of moksha, but it's very difficult for us. We don't know how to get the full scoop of ice cream. That is the challenge. That's where we have dhyana and then all the activities we do for chitta shuddhi. That is for refinement of the mind. Those are the activities that are done so that we can move towards that. Anyway, so this is Purusharthas. So you have to tell me when time is up, because the joke is that when I start talking, I look at the calendar, not at the clock. So, now,
I'm only your friend.
we have spoken about Dharma. I'll just go a little bit into that. Traditionally, we have what is called as Samanya Dharma. Then we have Vishesha Dharma. Now, Samanya Dharma is the elements of sustainability that are universally applicable. That means anybody in the world, whether it's in 21st century California or 18th century India or 12th century Persia, wherever you go, these are applicable to all communities, all human beings at all times. That is called Samanya Dharma. Now, this has been given in a beautiful verse in Manusmriti, where Manu lists out 10 of the qualities that define Dharma. So one is dhriti or fortitude, the kind of courage and fortitude to face things. Then kshama, which is the trait of forgiveness and letting go, compassion. Then dama, which is self-control. Then asteya, not coveting other people's wealth, not stealing, not taking something that does not belong to you. That is asteya. Then shaucha, which is cleanliness, hygiene, cleanliness also in our speech, in our thoughts, in our action, everywhere, purity, shaucha. Then indriya nigraha, control of the sense organs. So we will want to eat, or we will want to always have some very soft material, our touch, we want to see beautiful things, but to be able to control our senses so that we can move away from the external world and go within. So Indriya Nigraha. Then Dhi, which is intellect, or the brilliance. This is also important quality. So just being dharmic also requires intelligence. This is another important thing. Then Vidya. Vidya is, of course, knowledge. So without knowledge, so knowledge also is one of the very important aspects of. Then Satya, which is honesty, integrity, truth, and Akrodha, freedom from anger. So all these 10 qualities make up dharma. So these qualities are required everywhere for anybody. And it is very rare to find all these qualities in one person. What we try is at least some of these qualities can be imbibed in our daily life. Can we have integrity? Okay, if we can we have freedom from anger? Can we be peaceful at all times? Can we have self-control? Now, this is a very beautiful concept of the 10 characteristics of dharma, because there is a question that often and often we ask. We look at some of the people who are hugely successful and they are rogues, whether it's politicians, whether it's cinema stars, whether it's performers or athletes. Personally, they are rogues, but they are so successful. How is it? Is it not unfair that wicked people like this are so successful? Some politician or whatever, this is a question that we all. But when we look at this definition of dharma, definitely they'll have some of these qualities without which it's not possible. Even I know some of the most wretched politicians in India, they are so careful with what they eat. They don't have this chapalya. They will have one idli, one vade, one banana, or some apple. They're so careful with their diet. That's also quality. Indriya Nigraha. They are so careful in their words. They will not speak one word which is politically incorrect. It is so. It is very easy for us to criticize some politician or some business leader, but they are very careful. So, like this, if you look at all these qualities, some qualities they will have. Similarly, you look at some of the very successful, noble people, they will also have these qualities. So, when you look at it from this point of view, somewhere there is dharma. Without that, it is not possible for somebody to rise and to be of some value to society or to be respected by fellow humans. They must have some qualities of dharma. It is not possible, just like I said, it's not possible for one, or very rare for one person to lack, to have all these qualities. It is also rare for one person to lack all the qualities. Somebody is always lying, somebody always getting angry, somebody, it's very rare to find. So, therefore, when we understand this as Samanya Dharma, we will see that we all have varying degrees. Our attempt should be to try to follow it, and the reason for following is it makes it more sustainable. Now, if we are able to follow these traits, we become more valuable in a group. If you are honest, if you are kind, if you are friendly, those people become very important and respected in a group, in your office or in your home or in your community. So people who are not getting angry, people who are intelligent, people who are knowledgeable about different things, and they are not greedy, they get more prominent. So it is not for the sake of like, oh, this is something my grandfather has taught me, I have to be honest. No, there is great benefit in being honest. There's great value, immediate value in honesty, in cleanliness. If somebody is always thinking, they are not going to have too many friends, right? So, like this, all these traits are applicable at all times. Then, Vishesha Dharma, we have another aspect of Dharma, which are special dharmas, which are applicable only in a particular framework, whether it is Ashrama Dharma or Varna Dharma or Raja Dharma, Apad Dharma, all these things are called Vishesha Dharma. So, for example, there are some things which are applicable only during emergency. Now, if this was 6 years ago, all of us would be wearing a mask and we would have social distancing. The chairs would not be so close to each other. Everybody would have been sitting in one corner because that was Apad Dharma. It is not a universal thing. The moment that pandemic got over and people started, life became getting back to normal. So then that is only for that period of time we have to follow all the protocol. So similarly, Raja Dharma, there are certain rules only applicable to kings. Certain rules only applicable to sannyasis. Now, anybody and everybody cannot go and argue in the court. You have to pass the bar exam. Yeah, you cannot just because you are very skilled in doing some craft, you cannot become a surgeon. You have to do 4 years of pre-med and then 4 years of med school. Only then you can even start. If you try to do before that, you will be arrested for attempted murder. But the moment you pass this and you do this, then they will pay you millions of dollars for being a great surgeon. So the same act can be seen differently based on the context. I cannot take a gun and shoot somebody. Whereas if I'm a soldier in the army, I can definitely, if my commanding officer says shoot this guy, I can shoot. So the same activity, when seen in a different context, takes a different meaning. So all these things are specific cases. Whereas Dhriti, Dhamma, Kshama, Shaucham, all these things are universal, always applicable. So this is something very important to realize from our tradition. Few more concepts I can cover. I have time. Okay. So, in another thing in our tradition, it's because it has come from nature, it's so flexible and so accommodating. We have different layers of reality. Now, this is also, if we understand these different layers of reality, we will know why there has not been any major struggle between science and religion, between ethics and science, religion and ethics in ancient India. Because the ancient Indians realized that there are different layers of reality, different levels of reality. Now, the first level of reality is what we can call as factual information that deals with the material world. This is known as adhibhuta. That means anything to do with matter, which we can see with our senses. Now, if you want the height of this building or the area in square feet or area in whatever square centimeter or something, or physical reality comes under adhibhuta. These are the world of fact, which can be measured, which can be experienced through our senses. There is not much debate about this, except of course in like what scientists deal with, that kind of a world. Then there is another world, another realm, or another layer of reality, which is called Adhidaiva, which is dealing with belief. We all have different beliefs, whether it's belief in an Ishtadevata or belief in some, superstition, or it could be some faith or whatever it is. It's to do with belief. Or somebody, like some people are more believing than others. Somebody comes and says, "Oh, I lost my watch, I lost my phone. Can you please give me some money? I have to make a phone call." Some people say, "Oh, Papa is saying I will give $10." Another person say, "He's one more guy thug. I won't believe you." It is purely based on belief. There is no way for you to verify at that moment whether he is telling the truth or he is telling a lie. It's on belief. Some people will believe, some people won't believe. So anything to do with the world of belief, it's called Adhidaiva. So all your religious activities, vratas and things, or you do certain things, some ishtapurta, all these things is largely in the world of belief, rituals, anything, belief. Then we have the third layer, another layer, which is called Adhyatma, which is operating at a level of value, which is what you realize, which pertains to yourself. Now, there is a beautiful example that Dr. Ganesh gives in this book of when we try to understand uh, the same idea from different layers, what results. We take the sun. Now, when we see the sun from the level of matter, the level of fact, or the bhuta, then we say sun is a planet, a sun is a star, which is a central star in the solar system. It is so many, whatever, kilometers or miles away from the earth. It is made up of helium and hydrogen. This is the temperature and so forth. So all the scientific information about the sun. When we come to Adi Daiva, then we say Surya is a deity. We worship the sun. It is something that gives us light and warmth, and it's the one reason for all this growth of the plants and everything. Without the sun, we cannot exist. So we worship the sun. We have reverence as a deity. Surya as a deity. Then when we see, for example, there's another concept called Adhi Yajna, which is the ritualistic aspect. There is a Sandhya Vandana or there is a Surya Namaskara, anything that is a ritualistic aspect to revere the sun, to show our gratitude to the sun. That is one part of it. Now, in Adhyatma, now sun gives light. Now, I need the inner light to understand. To realize that inner light, I must have some consciousness. So, this at the level of value, at the level of the individual, we have Adhyatma. So, when we take any idea, we can easily see whether it is something which is to do with matter, whether to do with value, whether to do with personal realization, or it has to do with belief. So, there is, when it comes to belief, there is no point in discussing. Everybody has their own belief. When it comes to realizing of value, there is no need to discuss because it has come into realization. When it is in the realm of facts, we can discuss and we can argue. So therefore, we realize that there is no, clash between science and faith. There is no clash between philosophy and science because they are operating at different levels. Also, that's why the ancient Indians came up with this idea that truth is at different levels. We have something called as Vyavaharika Satta, that is truth at a transactional level. Now, the what we when we do business or when we are working in the real world, we dealing with transactional reality. Now, Prasanna Ganapati may be Advaitin, I may be an Advaitin. If he has $1 million and I have $1, I cannot say anyway we both are same. So give me the $1 million. His $1 million is his, my $10 is mine. There is a separation. That is a Vyavaharika Satta. At the level of Adhyatma, there is no difference. Everything is, if we may be Advaitins, but at the level of transaction, there is a difference. So, it is very important to realize that Vyavaharika Satta. Then there is Pratibhasika Satta, or the truth of illusion, which operates when we are dealing with any kind of faith. So, it appears so. In the last night, I had a dream in which something I saw a figure of Krishna. It appears. So, it is a truth of illusion. As far as I am concerned, I did have the dream. It is true as far as I am concerned. So, that is a truth of illusion. It appears to be. Like the famous example of the snake and the rope that Shankaracharya uses, right? A person looks at in a dim light a rope and thinks it is a snake. Actually, he feels afraid. He really thinks it is a snake. Only when you put on the light, you realize it is a rope. But when he sees the snake, his heart rate is going to go up because actually he is thinking it is a snake. So that is the truth of illusion. So it is true as far as he is concerned for that period of time. Then we have something called Aharya Satta, or the truth of embellishment, which is what happens when we watch a play or a movie. Now, when you see a movie, you don't, Brad Pitt is not really beating up that bad guy. It is all acting. But if you say, oh, this is all just make believe, he's not really eating, that's not really blood, this is actually some red color liquid he has got from the neighborhood store, then you cannot enjoy the movie at all. Okay, so if you are going to completely de-glamorize the whole thing, you cannot enjoy it because it's all make-believe. At the same time, if you really think that he's getting beaten like that or somebody hero dies and you cry and it's like as if the real death, that also is another extreme. You know that it is not real. At the same time, you enjoy that reality portrayed there. So that is what we call as a temporary suspension of disbelief. For that moment, for that 2 hours in the cinema hall, you're believing that to be true. Because if you didn't believe it, you cannot enjoy it. At the same time, if you thought it is a documentary, then also you cannot enjoy it. If it's something which is ghastly, which is, So you have to have a balance. That is Aharya Satta. So the truth of embellishment. So as far as that is concerned, it is true. Like there is a story many times I think I told. I love to repeat it. Rudyard Kipling went to meet Mark Twain. Right, Rudyard Kipling, the famous writer, was a big fan of Mark Twain. And when he went to Mark Twain's house, he told him, "I have a doubt. What happens to Tom Sawyer when he grows up?" Mark Twain said, "He's a fictional character. He doesn't grow up. I wrote that novel. It's over." Then Rudyard Kipling says, "No, no, but to me and millions of other readers, he is as real can be." So for us, whether it is Tom Sawyer or Sherlock Holmes or they are so real. No, did they exist in reality? Is there some birth certificate of Sherlock Holmes in some UK? No, it obviously is a creation of Arthur Conan Doyle. But we have read the story so much that in our head, it is a real person. So that is the truth of embellishment. Then there is Paramarthika Satya, or the absolute truth, which is the truth of Brahman, truth of the ultimate, the realization of something where at the Paramarthika level, if you're an Advaitin, then everybody is same, everything is same, complete, there is oneness, there is non-dual thing. That is at the Paramarthika level. So therefore, because truth is at different levels and reality is at different levels, we don't get confused about these things. So if somebody is talking about belief, it is their belief, there is no further discussion possible. If somebody is dealing with facts, then we can bring counter facts, some discussion, arguments can be possible. So this kind of freedom which is there is only there, which is available in Sanātana, where there is opportunity to discuss, to debate, and also the wisdom to tell us when not to discuss and debate. If it's purely a belief system, there is no further discussion possible. When there is dealing with facts, then we can discuss. When it is dealing with adhyatma, it is pure realization. I don't have to prove to you that I am happy. I know I am happy. That is enough for me. I don't have to prove it to you. Whereas, if you are accusing me of murder, I have to prove to you that I'm innocent in the court of law. I cannot say, no, I know I am innocent for you. Whether you believe it or not, I don't care. I cannot say that. I have to prove my innocence in court. Right? If somebody accusing me, I have to prove. But I don't have to prove that I am happy. Or I don't have to prove I am in love with this girl. Correct? I don't have to prove it to you. Because I know. So that distinction, what now? Because when it comes to when it is a matter of murder or theft or something, it is in the realm of adhibhuta. So proof is necessary. Whereas happiness is in the realm of adhyatma. So I don't have to prove to you. I know I am happy and that's enough. Then also there is a very important idea of freedom of choice in our tradition, what we call as a swadharma. So we discussed about dharma. There is also swadharma, which is our something which is aligned to our nature. At the same time, we don't have complete control over what's going to happen. Now, this is very nicely discussed in a couple of verses in the 18th chapter in Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna tells Arjuna that there are 5 factors that determine the outcome of an action. The person who is doing the work, person who is undertaking it. Because if 2 different people do the same action, there can be different outcomes. So the person, the circumstances, the same person doing the same thing under different circumstances can come up with different results. The person, the circumstances, the tools and resources available. So if somebody has all the tools, they will do it in a certain way. If they don't have any tools, they will do it in a different way. This is the third thing. The fourth is how this individual uses those tools and resources. And the fifth is unknown factors. So you can do everything right and then something may go wrong because of some unknown forces. The best Bumrah, Jasprit Bumrah is bowling. Somebody may drop a catch. Wicketkeeper will drop a catch. Best bowler is bowling. He has bowled a perfect ball, but this guy dropped a catch. What to do? So you cannot sometimes predict. But it is important to realize that we have to align ourselves to Swadharma, our nature, what is most natural to our temperament. At the same time, there are some forces beyond our control. So just because we say, oh, anyway, it's going to be decided by fate, we will not do anything. That is also not our approach. That's why he says, Karmanya vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturpur mate sangos karmani. So don't be lazy. Don't be attached to mate sangos akarmani. Don't be attached to inaction. Basically, don't shirk from your responsibility. But at the basic thing is that you cannot control the outcome of your action. You can only control what you do. So therefore, the motivation for your action should not be the result. At the same time, don't be lazy because anyway, whatever I do doesn't matter. There are unknown forces. There are other 4 things are there which are under your control. So you have to put your efforts. So there is a balance between free will and fate. This is another very important thing in our tradition. A lot more things to say, but I think we'll open it up for questions. But important thing is that the basic foundation of our tradition is on reason and discussion and thinking, because the basic foundational works were composed or by were revealed to philosophers and thinkers, not prophets. So there is a big difference that in other traditions there is one person who had this great idea and has rammed it down the throats of other people. But here it is a collective consciousness of great thinkers and philosophers, both men and women, that have been collected and given to the next generation. Over the years, maybe historians will argue about this endlessly. About 6 to 7,000 years old is our tradition, and in this period of time, constantly there has been internal critics and course correction that have happened. That is also something very unique to our tradition. All the people who have done the course correction are highly respected by the community, whether it is Vivekananda, whether it is Shankaracharya, whether it is Ramanuja or Madhva or Vidyaranya or Chanakya or Krishna, any of these people who have brought change, who have given the internal correction, they are also respected by the Hindu population. So, across the time, we are not looked upon innovators and reformers as heretics. This is again very important in our tradition. So, with this, I think there are so many different ideas, but I think this should give you some sort of an overview of our tradition. And I'll take a few minutes to tell you about the foundational works, then we'll open it up for questions. So, we can envisage our large corpus of texts into 6 broad categories. Okay, um, the Vedas, which are 4 in number. The Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda. The Yajurveda has 2 different schools for historic reasons, the Krishna Yajurveda and the Shukla Yajurveda. So the Vedas is one important group, and this is what is called a Shruti or revealed wisdom. We generally think of this not as authored works like somebody got an idea and wrote, but it was revealed to them, something which is truths of the universe which they have captured in words for us. So Vedas. Then we have other branches which are required to understand Veda. These are called Vedangas. So the limbs of the Veda, or the auxiliary subjects that are necessary in order to understand Veda. So this we have the discipline of phonetics, Shiksha, then grammar, Vyakarana, semantic etymology, the origin of words, which is Nirukta. Then we have prosody and poetic meters, which is Chandas. Then we have Jyotisha, or astrology, astronomy, which basically comes from the moving, the from Jyoti. Jyotisha is something celestial objects which have light, which are moving in the sky. So Jyotisha is also important. And finally, Kalpa, which is liturgy or rituals, study of rituals, temple traditions. All these things come under Kalpa. So this is the auxiliary subjects required to understand Veda. Then we have third group, which is called Upaveda, which are the secular subjects, the non-religious or non-philosophical subjects, which are important for our life. So we have the Ayurveda, which is the science of longevity and living well, physical and mental wellness, Ayurveda. Artha Veda, which is the science of economics, polity, governance. So all your Artha Shastra and Shukra Niti, Niti Sara, all these things come under Artha Veda. Then we have Gandharva Veda. So anything related to enjoyment. So Gandharva Veda has like Natya Shastra, Kama Sutra, all the 64 art forms, all these things come under, and even all our Kavya and music, aesthetics, all these things come under Gandharva Veda. And Sthapatya Veda is about construction of buildings, temples, the temple architecture, all these things come under Sthapatya Veda. So we have Veda, Vedanga, Upaveda, then we have Itihasa. Itihasa is uh, loosely translates into history, but we say that it happened so, it happened thus, Itihasa. The Ramayana and Mahabharata come under history. But we must understand that it is not history in the modern sense, it is history in the Indian sense, where we are trying to capture the values and the important lessons from the past rather than the dry factual details. The Itihasa. Then we have Ramayana, Mahabharata, or Itihasa. Then the fifth group is called the Puranas. Puranas have multiple things. They are like ancient encyclopedias. They have genealogy of kings and gods and sages and so many aspects of the different eras that we have, the ideas of creation, dissolution, so forth. So we have 18 Mahapuranas, including Bhagavata, Linga Purana, Skanda Purana, like there's so many Puranas we have. And finally, the sixth group is called the Darshanas, or the schools of philosophy. We have six classical schools, Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Purvamimamsa, and Uttamimamsa, so also called as Vedanta. Then we have the non-classical schools, which are Jaina, Bauddha, and Charvaka or Lokayata. So roughly, this is the picture of our tradition. You can broadly divide into six groups, and there are so many works. There are original primary sources, secondary sources, tertiary sources. They would have written commentaries on this. Some bhashya is there, some tika is there on the bhashya. So like this, if we physically print every book and keep it, it will be a huge library, maybe like Library of Congress or something. We required to house all these books. So that is it is not possible in one lifetime to read all the books. It's such a huge corpus. We had to choose and pick and choose what we want. So roughly, this is like I tried to give you a big picture. We will have some Q and A. Then there's one important thing that Pratap was mentioning that I should talk about, and that is what is the next steps. What are the books to read? What can be a takeaway from this? One is, of course, you've heard this. You have some idea about these concepts, but what to do next? So this I will address at the end of the Q and A session. But I'll open it up for questions.
Just shout your question.
Yeah.
So you spoke about not having debates when it comes to the realm of beliefs, right? Like when it comes to the realm of facts, you can debate and you can figure out what's right, what's wrong. But we also see the stories of Shankaracharya going and debating different philosophies of his times and then sort of presenting his version of Adhyatma as the right version and trying to ensure the Samaj follows the right version. So how do we?
No. See, it's not. They are not debating about the belief here. It is a debate on philosophy, the vakyartha that happens. It is based on certain understanding the world in a certain manner. So it is objective. It is not based on a belief. Now, whenever there is a belief, then that is not seen as a cogent argument. Okay, so if somebody says, for example, I believe that there are so many people in this city who are drug addicts, for example. Okay, let me say, oh, I believe, it's my belief that 60% of this place is, what can you argue for that? Right, you can say, oh, this is a statistics I have from here, this is from here, what you say is wrong. So if it is somebody is saying, I believe something, there is no further discussion possible. So when Shankaracharya, or even today, if you go to Sringeri, this Ganapati Vakyartha Sadas which happens, it is based on interpretation of a particular word, certain etymology, they use some Nyaya, Navina Nyaya, they use certain methodology to derive, almost like a mathematical equation, they are trying to derive something. So it is still in the realm of philosophy and fact and this kind of thing. But it is when the moment it goes into belief, it becomes very hard and it's kind of meaningless also. So but that does not mean people don't argue over beliefs. That's happening all the time. In many of in our day-to-day life also we see, we are arguing over beliefs. Nothing wrong with that, or not that it's not happening. But the general understanding is that when we are dealing with beliefs, there is not much that can be said.
Sanātana is so vast and open for so much freedom, etc., like you were saying. But does it come at the cost of the unity itself?
That is
Meaning that, cost of survival, right? If you look at Bharat, there's so much fight, so much factions and groups, and not people saying eye to each other. I think one of the reasons why I was suffered so much is there is no unity. Is it because it gives so much freedom, so much flexibility? I can do anything, like kuch bhi karo, like right? Is that it gives us so much flexibility and it's costing freedom and unity itself?
So this is a very good question about whether the freedom that is given to us, is it resulting in a lack of unity? So that I also feel that sometimes that the freedom, what has been given to us has been often misused to the extent that we are forgetting that there is something that is binding everybody. So because there is so much of groupism and sectarianism, we forget that the core ideas that we all believe in are the same. So our great strength is also our great weakness. Now, just because we did not have a central authority, like in the case of, say Catholics have a central authority, the Pope says something, everybody follow it. Similarly, in Islam, in Judaism, they have a central authority. It is because we did not have a central authority, we are able to survive the ravages of Islamic attacks and the British imperialism, because in different pockets, different people are operating. There is no one person, there is no one equivalent of a pope will give one farman and everybody follows. It is because of this kind of federal or republic structure, loosely I'm using this word, that we are able to regroup easily and continue our practices. So in a way, it is our strength that there is no one book, one person, one leader, but that's also resulted in this kind of infighting and lack of unity when, especially when we have to deal with forces from outside, we are not uniting. But I feel that in the last, say, 50, 60 years, or more so in the last 30 years, there has been an increase in the awareness, even among the religious groups, the mathas and the other communities, that we have to unite at least against a common enemy. We have to unite at least for the sake of survival, of continuing certain things. So then once we are safe, we are comfortable, then you can have our own practices. So just like, for example, when in this famous episode from Mahabharata comes to mind, when the Gandharvas kidnap the they attack and they take the Kauravas as prisoners of war, Yudhishthira tells Bhima that when we are fighting against each other, they are 100, we are 5. But when faced with a common enemy, we are 105. We have to, if we don't take their side, who will take the side? So like this, I think when we have so many different groups, and then even inside the groups there are some subgroups, subgroups like this, everybody is wanting their own identity. But in certain instances it becomes very important to come together and unite. So like I said, our great strength is also our great weakness. I am little optimistic looking at the way things are going. Slowly, people are realizing the importance. Like you rightly said, this freedom which is there also has resulted in unnecessary groupism, unnecessary divisions. I think slowly there will be some movement towards some sort of unification, at least to the extent that we don't have to all follow the same practices, follow the same festivals, or do everything the same way. But at least if we are able to realize that it is important to be united in some instances, so that we can continue to enjoy the freedom, because if we are not united, the freedom we have also we will lose it. So in order to enjoy this freedom and this openness and the rational thinking and argumentative way of things, even to just preserve this possibility, we need the unity. Otherwise, we will lose that also.
Okay. I was just wondering, kind of, what would you posit as the best basis for that unity? Because my thinking is, in a lot of places, there's a lot of these rural communities. They basically they worship only, for example, their grama devatas. They might not know much about. If you go and ask them about, the higher points of Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, whatever, they might not be very well versed in all the orthodox concepts. But I would say, for example, it might be easier for two matams of different Vedanta schools to perhaps unite on the basis of, at least we follow more or less the same texts. We know the basic concepts, but if you're trying to bring in to the greater Hindu fold, for example, somebody who's not very orthodox, they don't necessarily follow like Vaidika rituals per se. What would be the best basis for unity between someone like that and someone who's very orthodox, like Andhra? Like in Andhra, they have like these Shrautin communities who basically follow like only Vaidika practices.
Okay. So, very good. It's a very important question. Now, I'll mention a couple of things. One is, I'll quote great polymath writer from Karnataka, D.V. Gundappa, and he famously said, if our tradition, our culture, our Hinduism is alive, it is because of the millions of illiterate people who go to some shrine and bow down to some Grama Devata or some temple, and definitely not to some Vedantan sitting and studying these works. So the Hinduism, the strength of Hinduism, even today, so many people are following, it is because of the belief of the common man. So, as much as I would like to think otherwise, because I am not in that thing, I am reading some text, I am interpreting some things, I'm trying to understand Vedanta, trying to implement in my life. The real strength is the common people. So there are instances in places like Bihar and Uttar Pradesh and all, where people from even the what today we call backward community or Dalit community, or people who are oppressed, historically oppressed, this what these today's scholars, Western scholars say, oh, they were oppressed, they are this, then even under very dire circumstances, they did not convert to Islam. They did not convert to Christianity. They continued to be Hindu. And at great personal loss, at great personal sacrifice, because it was so easy under Aurangzeb or something to convert to Islam, because you would get all the benefits. But if you continue to be Hindu, you would to pay jizya, or you would be looked as a second-rate citizen, but they did not convert. So there was some deep faith that they had, which is why they continued. And those places, even today, are very strong Hindu community. So one thing is, I feel that the common Hindu is doing fine. It is the educated Hindu, the Vaidika Hindu, the Vedanta Hindu. They are the people who are to do some changes. I mean, as much as I am part of that group, I feel that. Now, with regard to your other part of the question, different mathas. Uh, one thing is, yes, I think there is a great need for that. What you said is absolutely right. Whether you are Advaiti, Dvaiti, Vishishtadvaiti, whatever be your school of philosophy, there are many things that are common to us. Now, every one of us revere Veda. Okay, doesn't matter you are from a Madhva Matha or you are Shringeri Matha or some Mandavan ashram, you have great reverence for Veda. You have great reverence for the Samanya Dharma. You have great reverence for all the temples. Now, at least Vishnu temples. Even Vaishnavas will respect Vishnu temples. Shaivas also will respect Vishnu temples. So great person. In fact, there is one essay, I think, Kanchi Paramacharya. So who is a Hindu? How do you define Hindu? He says a person who pulls the Ratha of Vishnu on the street. He is a Hindu, because Shiva, there may be Vaishnavas who don't sing. But if it is Vishnu, everybody, all Smartas, everybody will respect. So he says a person who is pulling the cart of pulling the Ratha of Vishnu, he is a Hindu. So, like that, there are so many things that bind us that are common. In fact, in D.V. Gundappa, in his Jivana Dharma Yoga, in the final section, he discusses what are the common aspects of the three schools of philosophy of Vedanta. So there are a lot in common. There are some aspects of